0417 hours, Asad Airbase, Anbar Province, Iraq. The desert night air hung still over the sprawling American installation. 2,700 souls sleeping or standing watch behind berms and blast walls built to withstand the worst. Then, the radar screens lit up. The AN/TPY-2 ballistic missile defense array detected them first. 17 inbound signatures climbing out of Iranian airspace, trajectory solutions painting crimson arcs across the situation display. The scale of the threat materialized in seconds. Fateh 110 short-range ballistic missiles, 500-kilogram warheads, impact predicted in 4 minutes, 37 seconds. The watch officer's hand slammed the base-wide alarm. Sirens wailed across 6 square kilometers of hardened aircraft shelters, barracks blocks, and ammunition bunkers. Every American service member in Western Iraq now faced the most sophisticated Iranian strike package launched since Operation Martyr Soleimani in January 2020. At 0418 hours, the Tactical Action Officer initiated emergency defensive protocols. Patriot PAC-3 batteries at the northeastern perimeter spun their phased array radars to full power, acquisition confirmed on 14 distinct targets. 3 missiles had already descended below intercept threshold. Too low, too fast, locked onto predetermined impact zones. The math was brutal and immediate. Engagement window, 93 seconds. Available interceptors, 16. No margin for error. At 0419 hours, the first Patriot salvo screamed skyward. 4 PAC-3 hit-to-kill missiles accelerated past Mach 5, their kinetic warheads seeking collision courses with the lead Iranian projectiles. The battle space transformed into a 3-dimensional geometry problem, solved in milliseconds by processors and propellant. The installation's 5,200 personnel crammed into hardened shelters, bunkers built to withstand 155mm artillery, reduced to prayer spaces in the span of a breath. Outside, the sky fractured. Impact. At 0420 hours and 17 seconds, 3 Fateh 110 warheads detonated against the western flight line. The blasts vaporized 2 CH-47 Chinook helicopters parked in revetments, shredded a fuel bladder containing 8,000 gallons of JP-8, and punched through the roof of Hangar 7. The overpressure wave shattered windows across 12 structures. Simultaneously, the Patriot battery achieved 11 successful intercepts. 11 Iranian missiles disintegrated at altitudes between 9 and 14,000 feet, raining shrapnel across empty desert 2 kilometers south of the base perimeter. 2 additional warheads struck open ground near the ammunition storage area, cratering earth but hitting no infrastructure. 1 final missile malfunctioned mid-flight, tumbling into the Euphrates River Valley 18 kilometers northwest. The immediate toll? 14 wounded, none critically, 2 aircraft destroyed, 6 structures damaged. But Al-Assad remained operational, runways intact, command and control systems undisrupted. The Iranian strike had failed in its primary objective, rendering the base combat ineffective. At 0437 hours, the second wave arrived. Not missiles this time, but the political shockwave that would prove more destabilizing than any warhead. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani appeared via encrypted transmission from Baghdad, not to condemn the Iranian attack, but to deliver an ultimatum to CENTCOM Commander General Michael Kurilla. American forces had 72 hours to begin withdrawal operations from all Iraqi installations, or the Iraqi security forces would consider them hostile occupiers subject to forcible removal. The strategic rupture was complete. Iraq, the nation American blood and treasure had defended against ISIS from 2014 to 2017, had aligned with Tehran. The shift had been building for 18 months, telegraphed through parliamentary votes and militia movements, but this marked the irreversible threshold. The Iranian strike was not an act of war against Iraq. It was a coordinated demonstration, tacitly approved by Baghdad, designed to humiliate American presence and showcase Iraqi submission to Iranian regional hegemony. Within 6 hours, the Pentagon convened the National Security Council. The options presented were stark and symmetrical. Option 1. Compliance. Withdraw 2,500 American troops from Al-Assad, Erbil, and Union 3 installations within the 72-hour window, accepting the collapse of 15 years of strategic positioning in Mesopotamia. Option 2. Defiance. Reinforce positions. Declare the Iraqi government compromised by Iranian influence. Maintain presence through superior firepower and dare Baghdad to escalate. Option 3. Surgical retaliation. Strike Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps facilities inside Iraq, the Badr organization headquarters in Baghdad, the Kataib Hezbollah command center in Jerf al-Nasser, demonstrating that American withdrawal would occur on American terms, not Iranian timelines. The president chose option 2 with modifications. No withdrawal, no immediate retaliation. Instead, a military buildup disguised as defensive repositioning. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group, operating in the Arabian Gulf, diverted toward the Shatt al-Arab waterway. The 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit, embarked aboard the USS Bataan Amphibious Ready Group, received orders to prepare for rapid deployment to Kuwait. At Al-Assad itself, the 1st Battalion 320th Field Artillery Regiment airlifted in from Fort Campbell, 6 M142 HIMARS launchers capable of striking targets 300 kilometers into Iran. The message was unambiguous. American forces would not be expelled. They would be reinforced. At 18:23 hours, 38 hours after the initial Iranian missile strike, Iraqi security forces surrounded Asad Airbase, not with tanks or artillery, but with an armored brigade positioned at a cautious 5-kilometer standoff, close enough to project sovereignty, distant enough to avoid kinetic confrontation. The commander of the 7th Iraqi Army Division, General Qasem al-Mohammadi, transmitted a formal message demanding American compliance with the withdrawal deadline, now reduced to 34 hours. The American response came not through diplomatic channels, but through airspace dominance. 4 F-22 Raptors from the 1st Fighter Wing, launched from Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, established a combat air patrol grid over Al-Assad at 28,000 feet and remained on station for 9 continuous hours, refueled twice by KC-135 tankers. The Iraqi Air Force possessed no assets capable of challenging them. The standoff calcified into a test of wills measured in fuel consumption and political endurance. The Iraqi government could not forcibly evict American forces without suffering catastrophic military losses. The American military could not remain indefinitely without logistical resupply routes through Iraqi-controlled territory. Both sides settled into a siege mentality, each waiting for the other to blink first. On hour 67 of the 72-hour ultimatum, Iran escalated. The IRGC Quds Force commander, Brigadier General Esmail Khani, appeared on Iranian state television standing alongside Iraqi Shiite militia leaders Qais Khazali of Asaib al-Haq, Abu Fadak al-Mohammadi of Kataib Hezbollah, Akram al-Kabi of Harakat Hezbollah al-Nujaba. The message was explicit. If American forces remained past the deadline, Iranian-backed militias would initiate coordinated attacks not just on military installations, but on the American embassy in Baghdad's international zone. The threat escalated from military confrontation to hostage crisis potential. Echoes of Tehran 1979 weaponized against American decision-making. The tactical lessons were immediate and unforgiving. American presence in Iraq, maintained at reduced levels since the 2011 withdrawal and 2014 re-intervention, had been predicated on Iraqi governmental consent that no longer existed. The legal framework justifying American operations, the 2014 invitation to combat ISIS, had been superseded by Iranian political capture of Baghdad's decision-making apparatus. The 2,500 American troops in Iraq were now operationally isolated. Their supply lines depended on flights through potentially hostile airspace, their mission parameters transformed from counterterrorism partnership to besieged garrison defense. Strategic ramifications cascaded through CENTCOM planning cells. If Iraq expelled American forces, Iran achieved its decades-long objective of creating a contiguous Shiite corridor from Tehran through Baghdad to Damascus and Beirut, the so-called axis of resistance realized in geography and military access. American intelligence collection against Iranian nuclear facilities would be degraded by the loss of forward operating bases. The ability to strike ISIS remnants in the Syrian desert would require longer flight times from Gulf states or carrier aviation. Most critically, the credibility of American security guarantees to regional partners, Jordan, the Kurdish Autonomous Region, even Saudi Arabia, would shatter under the weight of an ignominious retreat. But compliance with Baghdad's demand carried consequences equally severe. Reinforcing al-Assad and defying the withdrawal ultimatum risked open conflict with Iraqi security forces, transforming former allies into enemies and vindicating Iranian narratives of American imperialism. The logistics of sustaining besieged garrisons against hostile Iraqi and Iranian forces would require exponentially greater resources than the original mission justified. The political optics, American troops hunkered in Iraqi bases against the will of the Iraqi government, corroded the legitimacy of presence more effectively than any militia propaganda. At 23:41 hours, 4 hours and 19 minutes before the 72-hour deadline expired, the White House issued a statement. American forces would begin a conditions-based, orderly redeployment from al-Assad and Union 3 bases to the Kurdistan region of Iraq, where the autonomous Kurdish government maintained cooperation agreements independent of Baghdad's authority. The withdrawal would occur over 90 days, not 72 hours, and would not constitute complete departure from Iraqi territory. The semantic gymnastics were transparent but legally defensible. Comply with Baghdad's demand while retaining strategic presence through Kurdish partnership. The Iranian response was immediate and dismissive. Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian declared the American statement insufficient, demanding total withdrawal from all Iraqi territory, including the Kurdish region. Iraqi militias mobilized convoys toward Erbil, preparing to extend pressure northward. The crisis had not resolved, it had merely relocated to different terrain. 48 hours later, the first American convoy departed al-Assad, 600 troops, 47 vehicles, escorted by Apache attack helicopters and F-15E Strike Eagles, maintaining overwatch at 3,000 feet. The column moved north through Anbar province toward the relative safety of Kurdish-controlled territory, a journey of 417 kilometers through increasingly hostile geography. At no point did Iraqi security forces directly interdict the convoy, but militia sympathizers lined the highways near Baiji and Tikrit, filming the withdrawal, broadcasting images of American retreat across social media platforms. The information warfare victory belonged to Tehran. The strategic realignment was complete. Iraq, once envisioned as a democratic bulwark against Iranian expansionism, had become an Iranian client state in all but name. American influence, purchased through 4,431 combat deaths and over $1 trillion in expenditure, had evaporated in 72 hours of ultimatum diplomacy. The missile strike on al-Assad was not the cause of the collapse. It was the exclamation point on a process of political erosion that had been accelerating since 2018. The broader implications extended beyond Mesopotamian geography. America's ability to project power in the Middle East had been predicated on a network of bases and partnerships that now appeared fragile and revocable. If Iraq could terminate American presence through Iranian pressure, what prevented similar scenarios in Jordan, Kuwait, or Bahrain? Nations equally subject to Shiite militia infiltration and Iranian political warfare. The credibility of American commitments, already strained by the Afghanistan withdrawal, suffered another compounding fracture. 17 missiles launched in darkness, 14 Americans wounded, 2 helicopters destroyed. But the strategic casualty was far greater. The entire architecture of American influence in Iraq, dismantled not through military defeat, but through the relentless erosion of political will by a patient adversary willing to outlast American attention spans. The desert night that began at 0417 hours with sirens and missile warnings ended with a geopolitical order fundamentally reshaped. The question was no longer whether American forces were at risk in Iraq. The answer had been written in the withdrawal convoys rolling north. They had always been at risk, but only now did the risk become undeniable, measurable in kilometers of contested highway and hours until the next ultimatum.